Hello, everybody. Welcome to San Diego Sports Insight. I am back here as spring training is getting underway with pitchers and catchers reporting last week and the full squad just about set to report to camp in the next couple days. We're going to break down the Padres offseason and going forward into 2021. So, starting pitching wise, after the unfortunate news of trade deadline acquisition Mike Clevenger needing Tommy John and missing the 2021 season, the Padres went out and stocked up on starting pitchers, and they got some good ones. The best of all, the first guy they got was 2018 American League Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays. Snell went 21-5 with a 1.89 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, and 11 strikeouts per 9 innings during his 2018 Cy Young Award winning campaign. He has a 3.24 career ERA for Tampa. One question about Snell is his ability to pitch deep into games, but seemingly that was an analytical thing by Tampa Bay that didn't really give him that opportunity to. He's a really good pitcher, so I think if you give him a chance, he can be fine going a third time through the order. To get him, the Padres did give up Luis Patino, their second best pitching prospect after Mackenzie Gore. He's got some really good stuff. I mean, I like Patino as a prospect, but that's the price you got to pay for a guy like Blake Snell. Gave up Francisco Mejia for him, too. Mejia kind of disappointed me last year, and I just didn't think he was going to work out. And you got Austin Nola for the next 4 years, so you didn't really need Mejia with Luis Campusano, too, another top catching prospect who came up and hit a home run in his debut last year. So I like that trade a lot. With the Cubs, they traded for Yu Darvish. They gave up Zach Davies to do it. Davies had a solid 2020, but he seems like a guy who once teams got onto him, they'd figure him out, and he stunk in the playoffs, so I didn't think he was going to have a very good year. And it was mostly to get rid of that Darvish contract for Chicago because they took a bunch of teenagers that haven't even played in professional baseball yet. They were international guys in the last couple of years. Darvish, since the start of 2019, is 14-11 with a 3.39 ERA, 106 WHIP, and 11.4 strikeouts per 9. I think he's a good pitcher. I don't think people should think he's as good as he was last year when he almost won the Cy Young, because if you remember last year with the pandemic and trying to limit travel, teams only played in their division and the same regional division in the other league. And other than Minnesota, the lineups that Darvish was facing in the National and American League Central divisions were not all that good. So he kind of has inflated numbers because of that. He's not a bad pitcher by any means. Is he overpaid? Yes. Would I have done this trade? No, because I don't like the contract. But it's not that bad of a trade. Darvish should still be solid. So I give this trade probably a B, B-. The Snell trade, I'll give an A-. And the last one they made in terms of starting pitchers was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, getting Joe Musgrove, the big right-hander, who is from El Cajon and went to Grossmont, so he's a local kid coming home, and he's wearing 44 in honor of Jake Peavy, who was his favorite player growing up. How cool is that? Anyways, since becoming a full-time starter with Pittsburgh, Musgrove, after he went to Pittsburgh in the Garrett Cole trade following the 2017 season, in 3 years in Pittsburgh as a full-time starter, Musgrove had a 4.23 ERA, which doesn't seem all that good. It seems pretty average, but his fielding independent pitching was 3.69, so that's an indication that he got a little unlucky. He averaged 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings over the whole 3 years in Pittsburgh. The last two, it was over 9 per 9 innings, so over 1 per inning. And he has really good stuff. And the thing that we've seen with Pittsburgh is it seems like they don't know how to use pitchers very well. I mean, look what happened to Chris Archer after he went over there from Tampa Bay, and the pitcher who went to Tampa Bay from Pittsburgh, Tyler Glasnow, was considered a bust, a failed prospect after being the Pirates' top prospect, and he unlocked his potential in Tampa Bay. So it seems like Pittsburgh just doesn't really know how to use pitchers correctly, and Musgrove's got good stuff, as I mentioned, with the strikeouts per 9 innings. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can have a breakout year. A lot of people are mentioning him as a breakout candidate, and he has that kind of stuff that, that fastball slider, hard thrower, hard off speed that Larry Rothschild, our pitching coach, he really seems to do well with those guys. So I'm really interested, like he did with Lamet last year. So I'm really excited to see what Musgrove can do for us. To bolster the bullpen after both Kirby Yates and Trevor Rosenthal left in free agency, the team signed a couple of former Pirates, actually. Mark Melancon came over after a year and a half in Atlanta, and Melancon last year had a 2.78 ERA and 11 saves. I don't view him necessarily as a closer, even though he did have 145 saves from 2013 to 16 with Pittsburgh and the Washington Nationals. So he has closer experience, so he can do it in a pinch for sure, but the strikeout numbers were very unimpressive last year, under 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's not very good for a late inning reliever. Fielding independent pitching seems to indicate that he got pretty lucky to have that sub-3 ERA. He's just kind of up there in age, so he knows how to pitch. He's a clutch pitcher, so he can get some saves in a pinch, but I wouldn't want him as the regular closer option. I'd like to see that split based on the situation between Drew Pomeranz and the other major relief pitcher acquisition we made, and that is Keone Kela. Kela is a hard thrower. He's the kind of pitcher that Larry Rothschild likes to work with again. He had a 2.12 ERA and 10 strikeouts per 9 with Pittsburgh in 2019. And the year before, split between the Texas Rangers and Pittsburgh. He had a 3.29 ERA, 11.4 strikeouts per 9, and 24 saves. The problem with Kela, he's got a bit of an attitude issue. He was known as a clubhouse problem in Pittsburgh, and he was involved in those benches clearing incidents with Cincinnati, especially the second one when he started the whole thing by throwing at the head of Derek Dietrich. And when he was with Texas, he was sent down to AAA for unprofessional conduct in an inter-squad game. So he's got attitude issues. Now, it is important to remember that Pittsburgh was having kind of a toxic culture at the time, and Jace Tingler knows him from Texas, as does AJ Preller, so maybe they know how to get him in line and how to keep him behaving, and he's got great stuff. So if he's not a problem in the locker room, then I really think that he can be a great late inning option for us. Moving on to the last part of the offseason, the position players we got. Ha-Seong Kim, the Korean infielder, primarily a second baseman. He had an 866 OPS, 133 home runs, 134 steals in 7 years in the Korean baseball organization. Last year, he hit 306, 397 on base, 523 slugging, 30 homers, 109 RBIs, and 23 steals in 138 games. So he's got power, he's got speed. He's only 25, actually, because he started playing professional ball in Korea at a really young age. So he's not one of these guys that's coming over from Korea in his late 20s or early 30s. So he's just going to get better. I think it's a great signing. He'll probably bounce around, second, third, short, whoever needs a day off this year. But Cronenworth, he had a good year last year, kind of tailed off towards the end, might not be sustainable. So I'd say by the end of the year, or definitely the start of 2022, you'll see Ha-Seong Kim be the starting second baseman for the Padres. I thought that was a great get from Korea. Well done, AJ Preller, getting him to come over here from Korea. And the other bench guy we got is probably our backup catcher, because remember, Luis Campusano hasn't played a game above high A yet, so he could use a little more development. Now you'll have a more normal minor league season. He can go down to AA or AAA, get some experience and everyday at bats instead of ruining his development sitting on the bench. And Victor Caratini, he came over in that Darvish trade from Chicago, mostly because he's Yu Darvish's personal catcher, but he's really not all that bad of a backup catcher. He's a switch hitter, had a 794 OPS in 95 games in 2019. So it's a good backup catcher to have behind Nola. And again, it keeps Campusano's development in line. So I really like that. And to cap off the great offseason for the Padres, we extended our guy, Fernando Tatis Jr., for 14 years. He's going to be in San Diego through his age 36 season. Now, some people are like, this is too soon. He's only played 140 games. He's had injury problems. Look, I get it. But what the Padres did by saying, okay, you're going to get $40 million over these next 4, and then when you would have hit free agency, you'll get $30 million for each of the 10 after that. He was probably going to be more expensive than $10 million in arbitration the next 3 years. So you're actually saving money then when you're still paying Myers, still paying Hosmer, still paying Yu Darvish. And then when those guys come off the books, or in Hosmer's case, his contract goes down to $13 million a year, Tatis's salary goes up, and you set yourself up better financially for the next couple years. And it's going to take a couple years probably to recover revenue-wise, because we're looking at limited attendance this year after no attendance last year. Probably not going to see full capacity at Petco Park until 2022. So you're going to need to make up some revenue, but you're saving money by making Tatis cheaper these next 4 years. And then you have a chance, if he keeps developing the way he has, then that $30 million for the 10 years after that is going to be a steal if he keeps developing the way he is. Because as great as he's been so far, you got to remember, he's only 22. He could very easily get better, as scary as that is to think. So this was a kind of a gamble, but I think it was a great contract for the Padres, and I think it's going to pay off. And a great offseason for AJ Preller, and it's setting up this team not just to win this year, but to win for several years down the road. It was a great offseason after a great 2020, and I'm looking forward to seeing this team in spring training games and then, of course, in the regular season.